Today's episode is absolutely not brought to you by High Noon on ESPN.
It's High Noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast, and the only show on the air with the name High Noon. I am your host, The Blevins. Joining me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. Just as you guys can see, we're basking in the glow of our success. We've done it.
We got
shout outs to the Electronic Sports Network, News Network, whatever it's called. I don't know. Thank you for responding to
in there somewhere, right?
Yeah. But anyways, I don't care about that name. I care about the one they've conceded to us.
Yes.
The High Noon name. We have come out victorious. They responded to our cease and desist letters and decided that they were just terrified of the wrath of our Discord server and decided to give up the name. So yeah, had a lot of fun with that this week.
Oh man, it was so good. Especially it was so fortuitous because we saw it like right after we recorded last week, so we just hit a fantastic milestone of 200 episodes, and then we also see that our bitter rival ESPN cancels their show called High Noon after they stole our name many years, literally years after we had started the show. So really,
true.
Get off our lawn, ESPN, is all I have to say. GG. I was going to try to bring that back in all seriousness, but there is no seriousness about it. That is the serious part. Take that. You lost. And
hold this L, or in the words of our tweet, nice game, pretty boy.
Yeah. Nice game, pretty boy.
There had to be a second spitter.
Yeah,
okay, I won't do the whole scene.
I won't do the whole magic Lugie scene. So good, so good. But speaking of episode 200, thank you for everyone who chimed in before, during, and after the show for our little celebration there. Really was great to have you all, and we did get a couple messages afterwards saying thank you. So really do appreciate all of that. I know. Oh, Deathblow, I think there was a Patreon message somewhere that you sent me that I didn't put in here.
There's
but we can
two.
Grab that.
Find that one, and I'll read you the one that maybe you haven't yet.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. New patron Nailbomb gave us a message. I'd like to thank you guys for an awesome podcast. I've been listening since the early days with audio issues and have really enjoyed the journey. The Overwatch scene would not be the same for me without you guys. Also, shout out to the Toronto Defiant. Yeah, woo! Shout them out. Bunch of losers.
Whoa.
I've got one, Blevins. I don't have a choice. I have to move the goalpost and call it a win. I have no choice. Hope to catch you guys at the Homestand. GG. Yes, we will absolutely be there.
Yes.
So Nailbomb, if you're going, we should be easy to spot.
Yes.
Very large, very bearded. Make sure you do stop by and say hello. And anybody else planning on going to the Toronto Homestand, make sure you do stop by and say hello. Again, easy to spot. We're trying to get Thornrain there with us as well. So you can add a bald lead singer, a disturbed looking dude to the crew, and that'll really help narrow it down. So yeah, really looking forward to that, and look forward to meeting a bunch of you guys out there. So it would be great if you could find us and say hello.
Yeah, and if we somehow get Kyle in there, you will definitely recognize us, because we'll have that cast and crew, and then we'll have someone who looks much more normal with us. That is not quite as crazy looking as you, myself, and Thornrain. But
did you find the other one?
I found the person and their
patronage.
Okay, so I will Ooh, I will definitely try to read this one. This one is from Kyrakos Agapides.
It's Kirkos in Discord. I believe
Kirkos,
he's from. Oh, where's he from? Greece.
Greece, I
think he's from
believe.
Greece. Yeah.
Yes, the $6 patron. Thank you so much for that, guys. Remember, you can go to patreon.com/high noon podcast to support us there. We really do appreciate that. Death, I know he's got a nice message there as well.
Yes, he says, thank you for your always interesting podcast. I first heard the High Noon podcast midway through season 2, but I got hooked and don't miss anything. Due to time zone differences, I don't get to catch you guys live, but you make my work day so much more enjoyable every week. Your Discord community is great. I find myself looking at it on my phone all the time. Me too. My boss hates it. I like how you keep getting better and better. I hope for many more episodes and to see Deathblow become Sato's greatest fan. Oops. Greetings from Greece and keep up with the memes. Thank you so much, Kirkos.
Yes.
And you are here live.
I was going to say,
man.
Kirkos is here live as well. So shout outs to them. Thank you so much for the patron. And thanks for being here. Really do appreciate it. It's, patrons obviously really help us do a lot of the cool things we've done over the years. BlizzCons, Grand Finals, Homestands, all that amazing stuff. But just, showing up to chat live at twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast on Mondays is always just great. And just being in the Discord and chatting along is also a huge help. You can always go to discord.me/High Noon Podcast for that. And just continuing the thanks from episode 200. So really, guys, do appreciate that. But let's move on here. In the housekeeping, we of course got a brand new batch of foul play from last week, and we'll be having another new one this week. Keeping you guys.
Jerry's in, so I'm sure it's getting nuts over there.
Gotta be getting nuts. I'm sure Teppo is just going crazy. Yeah, it seems to be going back and forth. The Jerry versus Logic's game is getting more and more interesting as Jerry is seeing more play and
Teppo.
yeah, and Logic's is continuing his on stage performances from
He won a map.
Yep. That is 33% of what you need to do in a week, but we'll get there. There's still a lot of season to play. To play there, so make sure you check them out, and make sure you're checking out Blackwatch Report as well, keeping up with the tier 2 scene in Overwatch, making sure you're getting all the up-to-date news on what's going on in the tier 2 scene and keeping you up to date on all of the craziness. And we're getting this just in from Thornrain in the chat, who is one of the co-hosts, of course. Boopasaurus Rex is going to be on the show this week. I'm imagining talking about their departure from Casting Contenders, so that should be a crazy episode for sure.
Maybe a bit of a tearjerker too, if you like Boop as much as we do.
Yeah, I mean, I see him every week on the podcast, so I just laugh at him, but I laugh at his dismay. But no, in all seriousness, should be a really good episode, and Boop is another one of the people that we've met over the years who is just super into the scene and knows a bunch of people and is in the Broadcast GG extended family. So definitely going to be an interesting episode and maybe a little bit of a tearjerker as well. So if episode 200 for us wasn't enough for you, get you're going to get your full value out of your brand new box of tissues there. And Deathblow, I know you've been kicking around a couple of ideas for a new video as well, and you had a really great Sato and Ivy video last week.
Yeah, kind of Sato counts. I threw a shot. I fired my shot.
The clip, the clip of the whiff chatters was
the montage.
The montage was on point, I gotta say.
I was really happy with how that video turned. I keep getting really positive feedback. I don't always get to get a little attention on Reddit and stuff like that, because I don't always find some deep BMs or what have you. But hopefully I'm able to keep them insightful for you guys. If you do have any ideas throughout the week about, as you're watching games, hey, what match do you really want to see? Feel free to let me know in Discord or on Twitter at HNP Deathblow. Always, I bet it's kind of fun watching these games with an eye for like, was that the biggest thing that's going to happen this week? Do I just start thinking about it now?
Yeah.
Or, so I've been really, really enjoying the whole process, and I'm looking forward to another one this week. I might try to peer into my looking glass a little bit, my crystal ball, and see what I think the hero pool meta is going to look like this upcoming week. We'll see. I'm not sure I can pull that video off, but I want to challenge myself and try it, I think.
Well, it will certainly either prove to be correct almost instantly or a horrific failure in terms of your predictions. But that might even be a better video. Who knows?
Right.
Definitely looking forward to that. Make sure you guys are checking out the YouTube channel as well, because now it's not just repostings of the episodes. We actually, and by we I mean Deathblow, actually has good relevant content regarding the Overwatch League on the channel. So definitely, even if you are a podcast only listener or an iTunes only listener or Spotify or any of the podcast channels, make sure you check out the YouTube, because we've got other stuff there now. Definitely going to want to do that. All right. Let's talk a little bit about what we did this week. Deathblow, anything fun and exciting for you in the last week?
I forgot we do this segment every single week. No, I mean, not really. I see, it's when I do these videos, it's like, oh, the one interesting thing was I was like mad that they hadn't put the games up yet. And I just didn't realize that like this week's games go into a different replay viewer than like it's goofy. So that was just me being an idiot. There's like the current and previous replay viewers. And I thought current was what they were going to be using to show us the live perspectives, like kind of like Command Center gave you previously. And it didn't even occur to me to check there. And then I found it like in the last possible minute before I could even begin to start making a video and doing things, and was able to pull that video off and get it together by relying heavily on the previous week's footage of Philly, since it all worked. But yeah, it was just weird and just completely on me. I don't even know if I mentioned it on the air last week, because I don't think I knew until I got off and went looking for the VODs. But yeah, it was it's a big chunk of the week. Like, you should see me on Wednesday. Like when you guys are leaving all that feedback and I'm replying, I'm just like at work, just trying to keep my eyes open. It wasn't that bad this week, honestly, but the week before was a little tougher. So hopefully I get a little used to it and it's a little less punishing. But yeah, that feels like most of my week, because it's like huge hour-long, like 8-hour blocks of editing, and then no sleep, and then it's catching up on sleep the rest of the week, and then the matches start. So yeah, that was my week.
Nice,
but fun.
Yeah, and I think you'll probably end up getting used to it a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll just get better and more efficient at everything. Yeah, it'll get better.
You'll catch an eye for it.
How about you?
Yeah, for me, been playing Runeterra and a little bit less TFT. New sets coming out soon for that. And we did get some information about some rainbow sherbet flavored smoke walls for Valorant, but that's about as much of a Valor rant will go on for that game. Ooh, got there. Write that one down, patent pending. But yeah, just same old. Watching the matches. I had one of my I just love doing this during the season, is just like having nothing scheduled for the entire day. Just have one screen Overwatch League, another screen for games or Discord or nothing, and then just have a disgusting smattering of Little Caesar stuffed crust pizza and just like not even good food, just like the junkiest, most disgusting,
greasiest, garbage, cheap food.
Yeah, stuffed crust Little Caesars pizza. It will kill you if you do it too much, which is why I only do it once every
Is that
couple of
a thing?
weeks.
Be right back.
Oh. It used to be an even better thing because you could get deep dish stuffed crust, which was the epitome of bad for you, but that was actually good because it was unique. This is just like a crappy
Sure.
hot and ready with stuffed crust, which I mean stuffed crust, come on. If I can stuff my crust, I'm gonna do it. But yeah, that's my weekend in a nutshell. In a stuffed crust. That's my weekend I'm gonna start saying that instead of no, not. Okay, let's move on here and talk about
It's high
news. We got a little bit of news here. Munchkin parted ways with Boston.
Good old Munch. Congratulations.
Yeah, good old Munch.
Proud of you.
He's gone. Left the Boston Uprising. I don't believe we have, again, any sort of transparency as to what the arrangement is here. Just looks like a pretty standard press release that he's gone.
Yeah, just saying goodbye.
Goodbye,
we
nice
can read
things.
between the lines a little bit. I mean, he's a solid kind of role filler. He's not a star, not somebody they were likely to be able to profit off of when moving.
Yeah.
And I think that's about the extent of, once Jerry started to work out a little bit,
Yeah.
and it seems like there might be at least more upside there. It's makes sense to me, right? It
Yeah.
didn't seem like he was likely to get back on the stage once Jerry did take over, especially with the fans taking to him the way they did.
Yep.
Him just seeming like kind of a goofball, really just kind of hammed it up and leaned into it a little bit, and it was very, very entertaining to see.
Yeah. And the Jerry chants just kind of, I mean, we've
Right.
been watching Jerry Springer for 30 years now.
Right,
Like,
right.
It's already there.
They write themselves,
Yeah.
which is great. So yeah, kind of makes sense for Boston here. They're always going to look for opportunities to spend less money and or make some money.
Yeah.
And Munchkin being on the roster, I don't think represented much of a chance for either direction there. So they moved on.
Yeah, I mean, again, taking away the disdain for Boston specifically, like I kind of like that there's a team that's actually like doing the almost like micromanagement of the team. I mean, I think maybe long term it's not like you don't want to be doing this all the time with all of your players, right? Because then you're never going to get
really insulting to their fan base. I don't know.
I mean, it is if they're a good player, right? But like if they're getting rid of a bad player or a player that's not working out, like do you care as a fan?
Tell it to Aim God Note and Striker.
Well, I mean, those guys.
I
don't know if it was Boston's choice for a lot of those guys.
At the end of the day, if the Boston fans don't know what's happening with their team anymore, I do kind of feel like it's on them for still being there. But, sometimes you're priced in location, stuff like that. But is what it is.
I had to bring this up. James Hens says, when are we getting a pizza ranking podcast?
We just sprinkle those in, like
those are just little treats. Also, that episode would be called Starch Madness. Just putting that out there. Get it, like March Madness, but you guys don't get it. You guys don't get it. Okay, let's move on here, and let me find the button. There it is. It's tournament talk. We had the Houston Outlaws homestand at the Revington Music Center, and we had a little bit of everything here.
Let's stop there. What'd you think of the venue?
I thought it okay, a couple of things. First off, there was something going on with those signs, and they sucked.
Yep.
Like it's not like. Even if you've never done anything with Overwatch before or esports as a production crew, which we know is not the case, like you look at just traditional sports, everyone is putting signs up, and just like extrapolate a little bit, like they're going to put stupid things up, so moderate that in some way. And then also like even watching a single Overwatch League match, you should know like they're going to put up really dumb things. And it was just like to another level. So,
yeah, that was my one complaint, I think, on the whole weekend. Was please at me, the guy with the Bobby goofy head that was standing there the whole time. When did you watch the games? That's what I want to know. You gotta sit
Right.
down and enjoy some of the Overwatch. In all
Right.
things considered, it's not the fans' fault in that instance, right? Like they were given their chance to shoot their shot and they took it.
I mean,
Um,
it is their
but
fault because that's a really stupid shot
it's
to
their
take.
fault. Their signs were dumb, but it's not
Yeah.
their fault they were there and like taking up the whole background. I would say
yes,
just back
that I would get that I agree with.
back the fans up a little bit from the casters in the future, and I think that was great. All things considered, though, I thought this was one of the better homestands. It was one of the lighter on like production issues, which makes it a lot easier to enjoy. But also I am an Outlaws fan, but I was really proud of the Outlaws fans. You know, they showed up, they filled the venue, they were screaming their faces off, and it's a fan base that going into the week at 0-4 had every reason to not be hyped, to stay home.
I mean, in Buffalo, we know about a quiet home crowd. If you've ever been to a Sabres game in the last 5 years.
I was gonna say I don't know what you're talking about because the Bills are always
no, not talking about the Bills.
You're not wrong on the Sabres department. But at the same time, you know, that's to me the mark of a really, really great fan base. Are you still showing up? Are you still doing those things when your team's not great? The weekend's about you. Who cares if other people think you're gonna lose? Who cares what other people think of your team? It doesn't matter. You know why? Because it's at your house. You get to dress up. You get to go out there and have fun. And I thought the Houston fans were phenomenal and showed up and supported the team, and it showed up in the win column this week too. And I don't think that's a small coincidence that it happened for them at home and it happened in front of the crowd and everything like that. And so I was really, really happy about that. And I guess with that we can talk about the game. I just wanted to give a shout out to the fans that were there, including D Hulky, who was like showing us videos and Discord and stuff. He was in the building. So thanks for that. And I hope you had a good time.
The only thing I'll say, not necessarily about the venue, but just about the dynamic that we saw was, man, you really take for granted what Zoe does on the desk in between, because Mitch as the host, like, it's kind of like letting the inmates run the asylum a little bit. Like, they got a little, I mean, it was entertaining, but it is a different level of like feisty a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, mom wasn't there to rein the kids in, and
Uber wasn't exactly. Uber was not a great mom. He was right. Uber. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think having the like 1 out of every 4 weeks is just like the kids are running the show and everyone eats ketchup and ice cream for dinner is fun to watch. But I do like. It really gives you an appreciation for like the amount of crap that Zoe probably has to put up with, like right before the camera goes on. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
She definitely has a newspaper wadded up behind her, just like smacking them right before the camera's going on.
Yeah, with Uber on the desk, and it was great. I did really enjoy it. It was like you get the 10-year-old to babysit for the 8-year-olds, and you just pretend like it's fine, and that there's gonna be somebody in charge, and it just was not the case.
It was great,
but nonetheless, absolutely a really good time.
Okay, let's actually talk about the matches. We start off NYXL winning 3-0 versus Florida Mayhem. Atlanta Reign with their season opener 3-0 versus the Toronto Defiant. Yes, boos are in order. We saw the London Spitfire win a nail biter versus the Houston Outlaws 3-2. Get your boo in. I'm apathetic. Actually, I'm happy that happened considering the future result of the Houston Outlaws, but we'll talk about that in a second because Philly Fusion puts Uprising in their place 3-0. Paris Eternal getting a 3-1 victory versus the Atlanta Reign. We'll talk about this match, or at least the implications of this match, in just a minute. London Spitfire winning another nail biter 3-2 versus the Florida Mayhem, and Houston Outlaws rounding out their homestand with a victory, the first on the year, 3-1 versus the Toronto Defiant. Boo.
Yay! Don't worry, I'm pointing at me too when I do it.
Yeah. You had to laugh at yourself there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, like I said last week, I hate it when my kids fight. Houston needed the win more Toronto realistically had the better chance to do something with it. I mean, it's
Right.
not out of the realm of possibility for Houston to still make a run.
Right.
Honestly, I think this game was very, very big for that.
Mhm.
You know, when we talked about the things in the past when it was broken up into stages, it's really not any different now, right? They get to the end of 7 games, and that's essentially what a stage was last year. And we talked about how important it would have been for the Valiant or for Houston to, in their 0-7 stages, when you know they turned around later in the year, were making run towards the playoffs, had a real chance at it.
Mhm.
How much it would have meant if they would have gone 2-5 or 1-6
Right.
instead of, it would have made a very, very big difference.
Yep.
So Houston obviously still with a ton to still address. But like I kind of said going into last week, I predicted them to beat London because I did think both of them were kind of bottom end teams for the most part.
Mhm.
But leaving the weekend, I kind of think maybe they're both bottom middle teams.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to say, especially a team like Houston that night and day, I think, look different in
Right.
different metas. And
Mhm.
Linkser did make his debut,
Yep.
and I'm glad we can get that kind of behind us. But Houston seems to be peeling away the layers of their onion a little bit and like
Mhm.
kind of getting rid of their problems one at a time. And they are fixing things each match. And at the end of the day, when you've got as much change as they had and a brand new head coach, I don't know that you can really ask for much more. The
Right.
difference in what you saw from them in the last game this weekend against Toronto versus what you saw from them in their first game a couple weeks ago, mind-blowing. It was the difference between a team that couldn't walk out of the spawn door as 6 people and a team that could not be stopped. They looked really good. I didn't think that match was Toronto throwing it away. I thought it was Houston beating them outright at their
Mm.
own game. You know, and specifically to get back to Linkser, I thought he performed very well. I thought he beat Glister in the positional battle in the first match. They didn't win the game. Glister's very good. And I think Glister popped off. He even, I think, had a flat deadlift against Florida. I think I saw somewhere in Discord earlier today while I was at work.
Mhm.
So we saw Lynx. I mean, nobody can argue Linkser lost that positional battle, I don't think, in that game at least. And then, I mean, on the Widow battle, right? He lost in the fight versus Logix when there was a whole lot of Reaper going on and
Right.
weird stuff that isn't really what either of them are made for, and therefore. But he did beat Surefour in the next match on Kings Row. After that, he was out, and they were playing Blase and Dante on the Hack Fist composition.
Mhm.
And it was, I thought, really good to see them show both sides of it, right? Hey, we can get better, we can improve, we do have the tools to be able to play the old meta. Also, we figured this out and
Yeah.
don't think they can beat us on these 2 maps, so we're gonna roll them out and get the win there. So I was really, really encouraged by that. Blase on Doomfist is a revelation. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that they have literally hydration there as well, which is one of the other picks for like best Doomfist in the
Yeah.
league.
Yep.
He's played it a little bit, and to me, Blase just looks much cleaner on it. I don't know if that's because hydration's in May jail. But getting the win this week was just so big for Houston. It changes everything. I don't have to sit here and talk about how Muma looks like the worst Reinhardt player in Overwatch League.
I mean, you
I'll
still
mention it.
could.
I'll mention it because it's true. But he showed, they showed us that there's an alternative here, right? And now we're
Mhm.
going into hero pools, and Reinhardt's banned, and Houston's got a match this week. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden now he gets to play the Winston, which he looked much, much better at and looked
Mhm.
viable
Mhm.
and like a playmaker on. And his hero or his style on that particular hero is one that doesn't always let you stand out. But the fact that he went from playing so poorly to playing really, really well with the hero swap, I thought was great. If his problems was a mental block, now I think there's a lot of momentum they can bring from this.
Yeah.
You could just see it on the team.
Yep.
Too. Even after they were up 2-1 and they were all smiles and they were just, it was a different Houston there. And when they switched to the new play style, I thought just everybody clicked. Muma
Yeah.
looked good. Meko was just so comfortable. He was making huge impact plays, lofting bombs all over the place, crushing Blevins' dreams. It was phenomenal.
Hey, they did not beat NY. And NY went 3-0 this week. So
All I know
none of
is
my
when I
dreams were
added
crushed.
you after the Meko bomb on Dorado, you didn't answer me, and that
True.
spoke volumes.
True.
So
Sure does mean something.
um,
It
but
means
yeah,
that I
no, it
blocked
was.
him on Discord. He doesn't know yet.
It's true. That's how we're in this private call
Yep.
right now.
It's on Skype again. We're back to Skype. That's not true.
Yeah. So, if the flip side of this coin is that we went from is Toronto a top 5 team going into this week to are they even a middle pack team? And I
Right.
think that's a little bit people just kind of being crazy. Atlanta's a very well thought of team. They countered Toronto very, very hard,
Mm-hmm.
played a very specific counter strat, and it just didn't look like Toronto had the answer for it. And
Right.
Toronto's self-aware enough to know they can't line up in the meta and just beat people in this current meta, and that's why they played a lot of the other stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's a boon for them. Almost every team is going to have a meta where they're lackluster, and the key is finding a way to play outside or around the meta and
Right.
still get your wins and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the middle is getting very cloudy
Very cloudy,
in
very
there.
clustered as well.
Yeah, I don't know that we have a true just dumpster diver team in the league at this point. Just as somebody that's not capable of winning. Everybody that's played has the win already.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see exactly how things shake up. But things are definitely going to get a lot different as we go into the hero pools here.
Yeah, I mean, we already have a mini parody puzzle set up. We have Toronto, who's beaten Paris, Paris, who's beaten Atlanta, Atlanta, who's beaten Toronto. Like, we have that parody puzzle, and there's probably other ones as well. That's one that jumps to mind, but it's like you can't. Again, we've been talking about it for years. Can't use transitive property here, or else like. Is Toronto actually better than Rain because they beat the person who beat them, even though like
Yeah.
it doesn't work. The parody puzzle sort of throws that out, and we're still. I mean, right now we're still very early on. A bunch of teams haven't even played yet, so we got to take that for what it's worth. And then the other thing is like the mark of how good you are in the Overwatch League for season 3 is not even how you did in the first split. It's how do you do across multiple hero pools? Like that's literally how it's set up now. So this next week when we get into hero pools, which we'll talk about in a second, is going to be a big marker for how can teams adapt. How do they do in these 2 week sprints essentially for or splits rather for these new hero pools. But yeah, I mean, I think just real quickly, the Paris versus Atlanta match, like that sort of set it tempered some expectations, right? Because a lot of
Sure.
people, myself included, were Atlanta Reign might be a top 3, top 5 team, and it's like, well, they lost to Paris, who also is making a run for it right now. But is it Paris is actually in the top, or is everyone sort of in this nebulous middle right now? It's really hard to tell, but
It is, and I'm one that even kind of thought it was really a little bit crazy to put Atlanta Reign top 3, considering they were a team that had an 0-5 start to a stage that only turned it
right,
around in their homestand weekend. And then when they were a team that was super streaky
right.
and super inconsistent. And do they have the talent to play with absolutely anybody and to play with the best Overwatch you can possibly see? They can absolutely be in that game,
Mm-hmm.
but they're very, and it's not even like they're inconsistent play from their players. They're emotional players.
Yeah.
They get amped up. Their peaks are so high and their lows
Mm-hmm.
are so low, that it was going to be really, really hard for them, I think, to maintain that throughout the season. And
Yep.
I'm not sure I even want them to. Like, as a team that
Mm-mm.
would be very happy to crown the Atlanta Reign champions this year. Like, I wouldn't, that wouldn't bother me in the slightest. If that's what you're rooting for, I don't know that you want that to happen. You just want them to peak and be amped in the
Right.
playoffs at the
Right.
right time. That's
Mm-hmm.
what these league formats are about. So not being top 3 in the standings isn't the end of the world for the Atlanta Reign, and it might not be reasonable to expect from them. But we did see Baby Bay maintain his spot, and I think a lot of people penciled in Sharp and
Mm-hmm.
Erster there as well. We saw Pakpo keep his starting job, and I think a lot of people thought it would go to Gator and Hawk, and I don't think that's going to happen for this team, and I think
Well, we
that's
did see
probably
some Gator.
correct. We did. That was part of the counter for Toronto. They ran Pakpo and Gator, and they were just like in double shield with Torbjorn a lot to just counter the dive,
Yeah.
and it worked very, very well. So they didn't have any reason to change off of it. But when they came back in against Paris,
Yeah.
it was Hawk and Pakpo, and that to me is probably the correct tank distribution. I do really want to see the new guys on DPS. I think we know what Baby Bay has, and it's good and more than enough to win. But it doesn't mean that there's not better in the wings waiting for them. So maybe they do have a level up in them just from roster construction. I don't know if it's not working, and if they're not cruising. I do expect Sutffed to tinker with it a little bit and try some things. I don't think he's just going to stand pat on near 500 record or something. I mean, that's what they are now, but that's not what they are. I don't think too many people think that. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how things do progress for them. But if you're an Atlanta fan, if you're trying to predict them in the future, don't forget they are a team that will just lose to anybody at any time. That's part of what comes with them beating anybody at any given time. So
true. So it's definitely going to be a matter of consistency and reining it in. Okay, no, I'm fired for that one. I also thought it was funny that they kept trying to get Uber to say all of the rain puns on the teleprompter, and he's just like, I'm not saying that, bro.
Stop putting them
there. And then Mr. X is like, I'll say anything on a teleprompter. Oh, that was a good desk. But I want that to be sprinkled in every couple of weeks so that we'll appreciate it more. Okay. Speaking of sprinkling things differently every few weeks and appreciating things more, let's talk about hero pools. Our very first heroes banned in the hero pool, of course, is 1 support, 1 tank, and 2 DPS. Those are going to be Moira, Reinhardt, McCree, and Widowmaker. They are all going to be banned for these games that we were talking about coming up. Deathblow, I know you've put a little bit of thought to this, and you might be putting even more thought to it if you go forward with the video. What are you thinking that our meta is going to look like with these bans?
Well, real fast, did you watch them do the raffle draw?
I saw some of it. I saw clips of it.
I think they were saying they weren't going to put that in watch point every single week, and I want to take a moment to say that would be a huge mistake.
Yeah,
that was awesome viewing. It was great TV. I was super excited and into watching that. It was great. Do not take that off broadcast. Not for transparency's sake. I trust you to do it randomly in the background.
Right.
For fanfare's sake. For a cap to the week. Something like, oh, I don't care about the last match, but I'm going to stick around and watch it because I want to know when hero pools are going to happen, sort of a thing. I think it's got a lot of pull for that, and I really, really don't want to see them take it off camera and do it. It's a missed opportunity. So please, Blizzard, recognize how fun that was and how cool that was.
Seems like such a small and easy thing to do for so much extra value.
Right, and you don't need to. You can preload the spinner, the drawing thing, whatever. You can change the method every week and get silly with it. I don't care, but it was just a lot of fun to watch them determine it live and to go through the anxiety of when they're reaching into the support pool and don't pull Lucio, like fighting for pull May. Oh my god, like it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Specifically about this particular hero pool that we have, I'm sure you've heard some conversation or discussion about it. Listen, the hit scan's gone, right? Houston got Linkser back, and he was so good they banned him out.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
I think he actually made a tweet that was like, "Yep, guess I'm staying home this week, boys."
Yeah, it's. I really, really love this. I'm like doubling down on hero pools now. I thought I liked them and I wanted to see it in action, and now I haven't even seen a game of it played, and I don't care. I'm all in. And a big part of the reason why was because everybody wanted to see May banned, right? And it didn't happen. But when I look at what was banned and I try to think about what's going to see play, I don't see how May still fits in here, to be perfectly honest with you. Her play is going to drop significantly, and they didn't even pull her out of the hero pool. And if that doesn't make you sure that this is going to force unique and fun and interesting metas, at least more often than not,
Right.
there's going to be some that maybe are a little regrettable or whatever, but that'll be fun in its own right?
Yeah.
It's El Clasico. It's figuring it out. That's
Yep.
part of the point here. But yeah, Reinhardt's gone, and that's going to blow up the meta instantly because Rein, Diva, May, McCree can't work, right? McCree's even gone too. That was kind of your meta staple. So you take out McCree and take out Widowmaker and Blevins. What is the number one thing you think of?
Man, if you get rid of McCree, then I want to see what New York did against Houston and play Farah.
Yeah, like you just go straight to the sky, right? These are Farah counters that aren't there. I think more than Farah counters, though, McCree is one of those soft counters for so many things. He made Doomfist work worse. He made Tracer worse. He made Sombra worse. Like, he made so much of Dive worse because of the ability to flash and kill when they did dive on you. So I personally really think we're going to see a ton of dive this week. And I think that's phenomenal. Specifically outside of dive, I think there's a decent chance we see the Orisa Diva composition. They were talking about it on the desk. I think that's mostly going to be kind of the uninspired teams, or the teams that don't think they're very good at dive and really don't want to play it and want to try to resist it for the week. Or maybe there's a couple points on some of the maps that are particularly unfriendly to dive that you can get some value out of this on. But to me, the Orisa nerfs are very, very real. I expect to see a lot of Winston Diva versus Winston Diva tank compositions, maybe Wrecking Ball instead of the Winston, probably not instead of the Diva because she's just so strong right now with the 3-second boost. So if anybody does try to play Orisa Diva, I think the Farah is going to be able to just chew them up. May can't really participate in that because if you're going against dive and running that composition, the Winston can leave, the Diva can leave, the Tracer can recall, the Genji can dash out, the Doomfist can leave. Like, everybody can just leave. They don't have to care about your stupid May wall. So I really think we're going to see a big drop in the May. I think the Orisa Diva will get beaten out by Farah compositions. I know there's coaches on Twitter talking about how Diva counters Farah, and it's very good at it. It does a good job of reining it in and slowing it down. What it doesn't do is kill it and shoot it out of the air.
Right.
So eventually the Diva's going to fall, or you're doing a 1-for-1 trade, right? Your Diva's shutting down my Farah, and then there's a 5v5 fight going on over there that I can still win. And when I do, we'll clear up your Diva and we'll be good to go. Or we'll dive your Diva, stop it from being, there's a lot you can do, I think, to open up the skies for Farah in a world that doesn't have Widowmaker and doesn't have McCree.
Well, does it kill Farah with a Mercy attached to it? That's the real, and if it does on paper, does it also account for the fact that you just get 3 dinks right in a row with a damage boosted Farah, and then what happens, right? Like, yes, okay, this isn't auto chess where it's just like, oh, it plays out and it plays out. It's like, nope, there's also people playing these things, remember?
Yeah.
Like, maybe in an equal footing where the Diva is exactly as good as the Farah, but we know for a fact that that's not always going to be the case. There are going to be some really, really good Farahs, and also you can just play a little bit differently. Like, there's so much to it.
And if the Diva charges at the Farah, can't the Farah just like concussion grenade off the pillar they're next to, shoot off in a horizontal direction?
Hard counter though, death blow.
Right. So I don't buy that at all personally. Right. What I think might happen and might pull Farah out of the meta is that everybody's playing dive, and maybe teams don't want to go Farah versus Farah dive. Maybe they think they can get value with a double flanker composition, ignoring the Farah, trusting your Diva to kind of just hold it at bay while you do win the fight with a hack fist, something like a Sombra Doomfist.
Yeah.
Maybe you see teams like New York really relying on the Tracer since they have such really good Tracer players. I think
and
all
good Farah player too.
and a good Genji, right?
Yeah,
so I think you're looking at like SBB Who Are You this weekend for New York, for example, which is a big shakeup from the Nene Libero that they just gave us this past weekend. So all things considered, I think we're going to see maybe a bit of a rock, paper, scissors here between the Orisa Diva, which is going to do okay against Hackfist, right? I think you can get some value out of the May if you're going against Hackfist with that. And maybe it's not Orisa Diva, maybe it's like Sigma Orisa or something like that, so that you get the accretion to stop the Doomfist, something along those lines. But then you just switch to the Pharah in that composition, and you just destroy the Orisa Diva. You force them on to dive, and then everybody's back to it. So I do see a little bit of a meta and some counterplay building itself into this dive meta we're going to be seeing, and I'm super pumped about it. To me, the bans didn't go exactly as I'd have drawn them up, right? I love that basically support wasn't banned. Nobody cares that Moira's gone.
Right.
Although I'll say this, Moira's the least diveable hero on the support line.
True.
The one that can just get out. So maybe it does help bring dive into things a little bit more. The Reinhardt instantly broke up the meta, and then the double hit scan opened up you know what I mean, what seems like it's going to be really, really good. And it doesn't seem like it's going to take a rocket scientist to figure out that you're going to want to be on dive in this meta. It doesn't seem like it's going to take a rocket scientist to know that you should look for opportunities where Pharah is really, really good against your opponent, and then use it if you have that capability in your roster lineup. So yeah, I'm super pumped. I think we're in for a very, very fun week. And all things considered, you know, this could have gone worse, but it could have gone better. But at the same time, I love that we got kind of that middle of the road, like, oh, that Moira, you didn't even think it would be eligible, and now it's gone, sort of a thing. And it was really fun even watching it. You know, Toronto versus Houston, if that doesn't turn into a dive hackfist free for all, and if you're not watching Logix and Linkser go after each other on Widowmaker so much because that's what they do, is Widowmaker even there? Doomfist was eligible. Would Doomfist have been there?
Right.
You know, it's crazy. Even when you're watching games now, you're going to start to think about, like, wait a minute, they mirrored them. Wait a minute, that could mean, oh no, I don't want that hero banned. Like, stop it. So you're like mad at them for playing the composition because you don't want it to get banned. It's just another cool kind of element that I really didn't even factor in and consider. But yeah, it's going to be a fun little puzzle to figure out. And it was maybe, honestly, even though Houston won immediately before that, I think the highlight of my week might have been the hero pool draw, and then trying to figure it out. And the Discord discussion we had at the end of that was super great.
I mean, even though it's like, I do think it's probably good for the game after seeing it and having talked about it for the weeks now. I like it. Taking away that, I think it's actually good for the ecosystem of Overwatch League inherently, because like we get to have this discussion every couple weeks, right? Like it's what is the meta going to be? Oh, is it every? Why did I think it was 2 weeks?
I don't think so.
I
think it's literally every week.
You might be right. I'll take your word for it. For some reason, I was thinking it was 2 weeks, or maybe it's pulling data from. Okay. For some reason, I thought there was a mention of 2 weeks for something. I must just be misremembering.
There's like a 3-week layover on patches before they drop them. Maybe that's what you're getting.
It might be. Regardless, like being able to have this discussion it's valuable to the league. Like we've been talking about, like, hey, how do we get people engaged? How do we get people to watch this extra content? It's like, well, maybe make the content itself more engaging than just watching the matches and then going to sleep for a week and then coming back and watching the matches again. 2 weeks. It might be 2 weeks in non-league. That might be correct. I'm just gonna say that I remembered something wrong. Regardless, I think inherently, even though it is just like a change for the sake of change, although I do think it's good, I think it's good for the game, even if it is just a change for the sake of change, because we're creating content. We have something to talk about. We're changing it up, and there's a discussion about that. Are there going to be bad things? Yes. People hated goats, but guess what? We talk about goats. We'll talk about goats for forever, and there's going to be that 1 week where, you know, it's the worst possible thing. Like, I'm trying to think, what would be the worst possible bans that people can imagine? I don't know. But that would be cool to watch. I hope that happens where everyone's like objectively before when it happens, like, oh my God, this is gonna be the worst week of Overwatch ever. And then it probably ends up being just fine. And we talk about that. So
Yeah, you're gonna hate some metas, you're gonna love some metas,
yeah.
but what we needed, because everybody has different tastes, right? And it's
Mhm.
about the viewers. So now everybody's gonna get their chance
Yeah.
to see what they love represented
Yep.
throughout the season. And when we get to the end of the season, I really think when we look at the leaderboards, and granted, I don't know that this was a major problem because last year I thought did a phenomenal job of doing this as well. When they narrow it down to the 8 playoff teams, I really think it's going to be pretty obvious, maybe one exception or something like that, that we're staring at the 8 best Overwatch teams in the
Right.
league. And it just feels like it's going to do a lot to level things out in that regard and really help the cream of the crop
Yeah.
sift and rise to the top.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, I think I put like 4 different cliches in there.
Yeah, early bird
Came out
gets
with one
the
sentence.
cream of the crop is what they always
Yeah.
say. Last thing I will say on that is, we're Overwatch old timers. I think we can safely say that, considering we've been doing the
Okay,
show for
boomer.
201 episodes before the game came out. There's one thing we've learned about metas is that everybody hates the current meta. And I don't care. Oh, well, I like dive back. No, you didn't. Not when it was going on. Well, I thought that Twids did two. Nope, you hated that too when it was happening. Nope, you absolutely. Everyone always hates the current meta. What people need is just it to change more frequently than it does during the regular season. That's all it matters. Don't think you can take your high ground. Don't think that you liked a certain meta more than another one and you were mad when it changed. Everybody hates the meta after a certain amount of time. No matter how objectively and historically good the meta is, you're gonna hate it if you play it for 4 months. It's just the case. Shut up and just accept that because it's true. I guarantee you can go back and look and see people hated the current meta. Now we get something new every week, or at least some sort of change every week. Maybe it's just a variation, but that's going to be enough. I guarantee it is going to make a huge difference for people who get sick of metas, which is everybody.
Yeah, it gives us a solution that lets us see the degenerate, broken, busted stuff and
Yeah.
not be forced to live with only that
Yes.
forever. The more we see this happen, the more I sit on it. Like I'm falling more and more in love with it.
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing left is to see it play out on the live servers.
Right. And guess what? If you don't like it, it'll change next week. So, speaking of next week, we've got some matches to talk about. We only have two teams playing double matches, though. We're on a short week here, only 6 total matches. Let's start off with Washington, as it is their second homestand here. We're starting off with Washington Justice versus the Boston Uprising. Man, this is a tough one to give Boston any credit for, that is, because they're not showing us any sort of. I mean, who have they beaten? So I'm trying to think of who
Houston.
they actually won against. Okay, they beat Houston
in
in the Battle of the Bottom.
map.
Right.
Yeah, in the map 7.
Map 7, Linkserless, one of the longest and closest games of Overwatch ever. They barely won against a stunted Houston Outlaws. I think if you play that back over, it's not close. And if you play this one, over, it's not going to be close either. I'll give them one map. I'll go Washington 3-1 though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Washington 3-0. Boston is now back on the bottom for me. Despite that result, like you said, there was things missing. Granted, they were playing like backups or whatever, or trying new things out too. Yeah. But this is winnable for Boston.
Sure.
I'm not gonna make the same mistake that I think everybody made, like treating Houston like, oh, they're not gonna win until week 14 when they play against Boston again or something.
Right.
Like we can throw that out for the year. I'm
right.
fairly confident.
How could you possibly know, considering hero pools, if nothing else?
Right. So, but when we do look at hero pools, honestly, I look at 2 teams that are hurt by this hero pool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think there's going to be a ton of room for Hanzo in this meta. Maybe that's the linchpin that replaces the Mei in the Orisa Diva comp I was talking about, and Washington can pull that off. But Boston's main tank ideally is Fusions, who's a Reinhardt one trick, and looks bad on the Winston
Yeah.
when he's forced onto it and got to play it. I don't know that I've ever seen him play ball, and I don't want to see him play the Orisa again. So I think they're going to Axiom for the main tank role here. I think that automatically makes them worse because I think Fusions is a bit of a leader for that team and kind of rallies the troops a bit, even if it's not an in-game lead. And I mean, what have we seen Jerry play other than the Widow and the McCree? So he's back to being kind of an unknown. They don't even have Munchkin to fall back on. So how's your Tracer? How's your Sombra? These aren't heroes that you just automatically translate over onto because you're good at the McCree and the Widowmaker traditional hit scans. So it's not that they're necessarily worse. It's just that we're going to have to see some things that we've never seen from these players before if they're going to level up. So not sure how Corey comes out of this. I'm sure Stratus is fine. We see him play the Doomfist often enough. I think he's probably their Pharah too. So it's probably going to be a Stratus week over a Corey week. I think it's still fine. It's going to be enough. Boston has bigger problems than Washington does. But yeah, I'll go 3-0 Washington. But this one, even the bottom gets interesting with these pools. I'm going to keep highlighting it probably as we go through it because I'm really just enamored by the whole process at the moment. But I can't wait to see how these teams react when it doesn't feel like it fits them very well.
Right.
Some number of teams are going to try to ignore these hero pools when they don't suit them, and we're going to play what we've been playing, but instead of McCree, we'll just play Ash forehead, and then, it's got damage drop off, and I get destroyed by the Pharah, I guess. So, oops. How are they going to react? What swaps are they going to do with their roster to pull it off? But right now, Washington has players playing at a higher level than Boston does. Elevote looks really, really good. Roar looks solid. Corey should be able to find a way to contribute, and I think Stratus has an opportunity to shine, and our Aim God support line is very solid. So more gaps and holes in the armor here for Boston. So
next up, we've got Washington Justice versus NYXL. Feel like there's a little bit less analysis on this one. Easy 5-0 for NY.
Yeah, this is like going into what New York would love to do at all times. I don't think they ever want to be playing. I think they're fine playing McCree. They know they've got the talent for it, but especially now with Hotba and his slightly more aggressive style, I think they'll do very, very well in dive. Obviously, we've seen Mono play the Winston plenty before in the first season when dive was everywhere. And like SBB and who are you? Just line them up on DPS and let them rip. This is made for them. So let's see it. But I am a little curious, SBB versus Nene. That's still a debate, even though McCree's out. It probably shouldn't be, but I think it will be.
Yeah. That'll be the most interesting thing about that match, I think. I mean,
I'll leave the 5-0s to you for New York and steal them elsewhere to make fun of you, but I'll go 3-0 here.
I mean, I'm always interested in seeing an NYXL 5-0. Next up, we have Paris Eternal versus the Houston Outlaws. Death, we spoke a bunch about both of these teams already. Where do you have this match pinned?
The Red Hot Laws. So it's going to be really interesting. I think Houston should thank the randomization, people selecting things. This really pushes them into the exact composition that they just overperformed on, and just got the upset win over Toronto with. The Hack Fist really, really suits them. They can use hydration on the Pharah. His Pharah was ridiculous when we've seen it in the past on Gladiators. He's nuts on that hero. And I'd love to see hydration really, really succeed on something because his May has been pretty bad so far. Please just play Dante on it if you need to get back to it. Okay, thanks. Otherwise, Paris, I don't know, right? Xe looks like an absolute stud. And when he shows you that on a hero like Symmetra, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm worried that he's not going to be able to pick up a Tracer or a Sombra role well. He's shown me the ability to track at a high level. I'm comfortable assuming he's going to be very good at it. A lot of the success that we've seen from them, though, I think has revolved around an improved Ben Best. And that's all been on Reinhardt so far. So do I think he can just slot in and play the Winston and be as effective and give them just as much of a boost as they have in the past? I'm very not sold on that. But I'm also not going to massively overreact to one game from Houston and call this an upset. But I do think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be really well contested. I'll give Paris the 3-2 win here. Very,
Wow.
very flippable to me, though. The shakeups from hero pools make this flippable, right? It's not if we're playing the same meta as last week, it's locked and loaded, like Paris would get the W. But it's just crazy how much the changeover to the dive comp just fixed so much for Houston. If they're locked into that, man, you've got to consider them as a team that has a chance of this.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to take this flip. I'm going to take the 3-2 for Houston here. Man, I'm still not sold on Paris. They did beat Atlanta, but again, like Atlanta played.
If I hadn't been waving an eternal flag for 3 weeks, I might not you to steal from me. But man, it's like the team I've kind of planted my flag in as like, okay, no, they're legit.
Horse.
Like they're terrifying. And I saw that immediately as soon as I saw FD God and Xe. I'm just like, okay, no, if these 2 additions are good and Sparkle's not here yet, and then Handbin popped off, there's so much working for Paris right now. But yeah, to me, that's a big question. Ben Best over to the Winston. I don't have any idea what that means for this team.
It's close. It's real close, but that does mean we have to flip a coin here. Heads is the one, tails is the other, and we'll go tails never fails for Houston here.
Come on, coin.
Oh ho!
Hype!
Houston taking it. That is tails. Houston.
Put me in my place, coin.
There you go. Coin siding with Houston again. All right. Next up, we've got Paris versus Philadelphia Fusion. Man, Philly is on a tear right now. They're almost at NYXL. They might even be at NYXL status of, you really got to show it to me first. Unless we're talking like, I think I probably pick Shock over Philly, but man, that might be close. I don't know. It's tough.
In that meta, it was close. But you thought I was terrified of Ben Best on Winston. Holy smokes, we've got Sato coming. Yeah. And listen, I'm willing to buy in and give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not been his old self at any point yet this year. So I'm not going to predict it. I am going to go with the Philly win 3-1 here. This is more flippable than the Houston one by a long shot to me. I just honestly am not going through. I think it's 3-2 levels of close in competition here. But I just don't like giving them all 3-2s. So I'm going to say it's going to be 3-1 here in a super, super competitive game here for Philly. But I don't mind at all. Like these last 2 games to me are very flippable. Paris just hit these hero pools, and I don't know, something about it, just my gut, I've become very unsure and indecisive about them very, very fast. So
yeah, I'm not picking against Philly right now. Give me I'll take the 3-0, and now I'll go 3-1 for Philly.
Fury or Poco in dive?
That's a good question. They're probably gonna go Poco. I don't know. It's close.
I think you have to assume that for now, but yeah, they definitely. I mean, they showed EQO and Fury this past week in their easy clap win that they had on the schedule against Boston. Does throw a wrench in the works, and now hero pools is when it's almost going to be impossible to know what they're going to do. And right now, everybody's playing well enough to deserve playtime and things. So yeah, they're scary.
I mean, how much of that is Boston is very clearly a garbage time game, and they threw in
that's why they did it when they had something else they practiced all meta. But I think they picked that roster for that meta, and then now they're going to be picking based off the available pool each week. So
that's true. Smart. All right, last 2 matches here. We've got Toronto Defiant versus the Florida Mayhem. Man. Oh, Oh man, it's Toronto, 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 Toronto. I want you to be so good, but you're making and like you did bring up a good point, Death, at last week. I mean, Atlanta looked hot. I mean, that game wasn't close. Atlanta versus Toronto did not seem close. Really at all. And then it was a closer 3-1 Toronto versus Houston. I need to start seeing a little more, just a little tighten it up for Toronto. Because I really want to be picking them. You know what? I'm gonna give him a little more time here. I'll give him a 3-2 victory here over the Florida Mayhem. But man, they're on thin ice with me. Not in terms of a fan, but just like confidence.
I'm really fortunate in the sense that like I get to throw out that loss against Houston, right? Because I was going to be elated either way. I was going to be broken either way. Like it just all comes out as a wash for me. More than I'm disappointed in Toronto's not a little bit. I mean, a fall from grace this weekend. There's really no other way to put it. I'm kind of disappointed in Florida. They've really not done what I expected them to do, and that was level up. I mean, maybe not 2 levels or whatever, but I really thought they were going to prove to be better than what they're shaking up to be. Losing to London isn't something I would have thought that this roster would do.
Right.
They've got good things. Gargoyle looks really good. BQB looks solid, though I'm still not sold. He's a better choice than Saya player on the heroes they're using him on. I want to see Fate get a serious opportunity to play an extended period of time, and I think we might in a world where the Wayward Son is unable to play the Reinhardt. I think that might just be Fate's job. But the big weakness here is Chris on Lucio. He's been kind of an open wound for this team that just keeps constantly causing issues and problems. How do you have a main support that's that bad at Lucio? Is really, I think, one of the major questions I have. Maybe this does help them, right? Fate comes in, they go to Winston. Chris now has to play Mercy in a pharmacy meta. Yaki is a pretty solid Doomfist from my understanding and from what I've been able to see. And let's be honest, Gangnam Jin is a player that him and Myungbong have a video coming at some point, because these two gentlemen are not going to get any love in the Rookie of the Year race, and they very well might play considerably better than whoever does win the Rookie of the Year award by season's end, just by virtue of the team they're on. So there's a lot to like about what's going on in Florida. It's certainly better than it's been in the past, but I want to see more. I expected more. Show me a midseason pickup to address your main support. Try some of the other roster compositions if this one isn't giving you the results you want, and a loss to London, no matter the score, shouldn't be a result you wanted. So try Saya player as your carry instead of BQB. It doesn't have to be an indictment on BQB. It can be, just, hey, Saya's actually that good. And Fate was a top 5 main tank every minute that he's played in this league. Where did he go? Because Carrion's been good on the Reinhardt, but he's not been what Fate's been for teams in the past. So maybe he's washed up. I don't know. I don't get to see scrims, so I just have to want to see it on the stage and ask for it. I'm going to go Toronto 3-1. I do think this hero pool helps them, and I'm not sold Florida has the same pieces to beat. Like, I don't know that they have the better Sombra to beat Surefour like Dante was, and I don't know that they have the better Doomfist like Blase was. So yeah, I think Toronto should be able to get this win here. I'll go 3-1.
Last match here, we've got Boston versus Atlanta. I lied. I guess there are 3 teams that are playing 2 games. I was wrong. Again, we have talked about the Boston already. Just they're the inverse. They're the old Shanghai Dragons in a way now. I'm not. They're going to need to show it to me, even though they have beaten Houston already. And then Atlanta, again, is, I think, nothing if inconsistent right now. We've seen 2 matches from them, let's be honest. We're not sure where they're at, but I think we're pretty sure they're above Boston right now. Give me Atlanta 3-1.
Yeah, I'll go 3-0. I'm not scared of Atlanta after this. And like I said, it's what I expected.
Right.
And I don't care what their roster looks like. They should clean up Boston. They're more than deep enough. They can do almost whatever they want here.
Yep. All right, that is going to take us to the end of the week. This should be a good one, if nothing else. We get a small week, but it is a big one in terms of hero pools. Our first debut of those, so really excited to see how that pans out. I'm assuming they just put that right in the client, right? Like they don't have to like.
You can toggle heroes individually.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So yeah,
we can
they won't be selectable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So it should be a big one for sure. We're back in Washington. That's another thing I want to see is like, does the crowd turn back up? Is it still going to be just as packed? Are people like, pumped to come back, literally 2 weeks later? I know I would be pumped if there's another Toronto match.
Yeah, and I think Washington fans, you should be hungry. You should be showing up on Saturday salivating to just rip through Boston because you O2'd your last homestand.
Right.
You're not going to beat New York, but you can get that W at home,
right?
And that makes it a successful weekend. Like Houston was 1-1, and I'll guarantee you all those fans are over the moon with how that weekend went.
Mm-hmm.
This is your turn, right? Last time was a little disappointing.
Yep.
You've got 5. You're lucky.
Right.
GG. Go again.
Right. Yep. Run it back, but we'll be running back High Noon Podcast next week, as that's going to be the end of this one. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you check us out all the places on the internet, High Noon Podcast. Again, huge shout-outs to everyone who sent in a message or love or Patreon for our 200th. We really do appreciate it.
We didn't get to all of them either. Sorry, Beardy. We cut your beard power rankings. I'll keep the list around and remind me down the line.
Oh, yeah, we do have that.
We'll plug them in. It's just we ran so long that episode, and we had to go. Our apologies, but
yeah, for sure. But
keep an eye out on YouTube for a video. I will be doing that.
Yes, video is going to be coming out. Make sure you're checking that out. Search for High Noon Podcast on YouTube, and it will be there. But that is going to be it, guys, for Deathblow. I am the Blevins, and remember, it's High Noon.
And he put on his hat, he threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Early bird gets the stuffed crust. Confirmed.